Perfect. Thanks. We just finished our session on maximizing your productivity with Viva. Stain has did a good brief. So we're gonna give a minute of time for our audience to take a quick break, um, and then we can get started within a minute here. And then if you want to quickly see if you're able to share your screen and do a tech check, that would be great.
Yeah, that's no problem. So I'm just sharing my screen
Okay,
now.
I see that your presentation now. Anything
Yep,
from a demo perspective you wanted to share? Okay,
yep, this is
on
the demo.
Teams.
That's all good. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, I think you're all set. We can start in next minute.
Okay, I'll wait till 4 to 8 minutes past and then I'll start. Oh, sorry,
Sure.
that's
Take
UK time. Give it another minute.
all right.
All right, shall I get started?
Yes.
Oh, no problem. I will make a start then. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the session today. I hope you're having a good conference so far at Microsoft Viva Days 2023. Some really great speakers that we've had so far. Um, Welcome to the event, and I did just want to pop the slide on as well to let you know about I've probably seen this a million times already today, but there's some exciting prizes, so please make sure you hang around for the quiz later. Um, so today's session, I believe in session number 12. And so for those who have stuck in all day, fair play to you. Lots and lots of Viva information that you would have had so far. Today's session is going to be about Viva Pulse, and more specifically, how Viva Pulse empowered me as a new manager. So, a little bit about me. I am a collaboration architect at CPS. I'm also an MVP for Microsoft 365 apps and services. And I spend a lot of my time in the collaboration suite of Microsoft 365, so SharePoint Teams, Viva, all of those wonderful fun elements is really where I specialize. Now, recently, I joined an organization, CPS, and I was promoted as a team leader. And that meant that I sit in the modern workplace team, so we do all the modern workplace deliverables for clients. And I manage a team of, at the moment, 4 people, 4 consultants and architects of lots of different backgrounds and variations, and lots of different types of people, which is really interesting. Every one of them amazing at their jobs. And we've recently hired another new consultant who's joining the team in October. So that will be a team of 5. Why am I sharing this with you? Well, it's my first time managing a team. And so it was daunting. It was difficult, I guess, to kind of understand what type of leader you want to be. And kind of you find yourself as part of becoming a new manager as well. And what I found was we at CPS, we work remotely. So I've met all of my team because I've obviously made the effort to go out and see them and be in the office to see them. But on a regular basis, we work in our own houses. And so I don't get that kind of time face to face with a lot of them. We are all very busy. We're working on projects for customers all of the time. We have our kind of one-to-one meetings, but as a manager, I find it difficult, or I have found it difficult to get kind of really important feedback from my team and just find out, especially starting new in an organization, find out what's not working, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, how do I find how do I find that information out as a new manager? What is there for me to do apart from our one-to-ones asking the question? But staff members in one-to-ones with their managers sometimes aren't as upfront or truthful, or they maybe don't want to say what some of the challenges are. So that's kind of the situation I was in. As an organization, we used Viva Glint. So it was just Glint. It wasn't necessarily Viva Glint, but we used Glint. And I would answer the Glint surveys, but not necessarily see the feedback from the Glint results. And that was mainly because it was the leaders, the stakeholders of the organization would get that insight across the whole organization. But me as a manager, I wouldn't really get access to that information and those results. And partly sometimes it's because the way our teams are set out, there's not enough people to be able to kind of split, so I can just see what's happening in my modern workplace team. It kind of aggregates it all together, so it's difficult to see where the feedback's coming from because we have lots of different departments in CPS. So I just wanted to start the session with why we started using Viva Pulse and how it helped me, and a little bit of context. So the context is new manager, new people, first time managing people and trying to help them and support them, managing different types of people and different personalities, and brand new to it and don't really know where to start, or didn't really know where to start and how to, and what things I should implement. And that's why we started looking at Viva Pulse. So for those who, so we'll talk about the tech now that I've told you my life story, it feels like, but it's very important in terms of the context of me using this technology. So what did we do? Well, we started using Viva Pulse. And in terms of where Viva Pulse sits in that Microsoft Viva suite, you might have seen this slide a few times or a variation of this slide today, but it's very important for me to position where Viva Pulse sits. So as we all probably know by now, Viva Suite, it's the employee experience platform from Microsoft. And it has a few key different themes to make sure employees are happy and engaged, and they're giving feedback and skilling and growth and all of those wonderful things. Viva Pulse sits in that kind of listening and feedback theme. So it works very nicely with Viva Insights, which we were just listening in on in the previous session, and Viva Glint. And I'll talk about how it fits in and complements those two Viva Suite tools towards the end. But that's really where we're kind of focusing, is that kind of feedback, listening, understanding the challenges and opportunities, finding out from your staff what's actually going on, and kind of implementing, new initiatives or actions or changing things for the better that's going to help. That's what we'll be focusing on today, and that's kind of how it fits into the Viva suite. So Viva Pulse, what is it for those who maybe don't know what I'm talking about? Well, it's a lightweight survey feedback tool that's available in Microsoft Teams. And it's a lightweight because it's really designed for managers of teams, department leaders of department-specific teams, and also project leads as well, to find out feedback from different projects that are happening. And the reason why it's lightweight is because it's designed to get the current pulse of what's going on. So hence the name. So it's not a survey tool that's designed to, a heavy duty 20 questions once a month type of tool. It's not that at all. It's we've got a couple of questions to find out what's happening and how people feel at that moment in time. So it's a very quick kind of pulse check on, are people happy? Are there current issues? We're working on this project. How do people feel about it? It's very, ad hoc, but also kind of when required. So for me as a manager, I would be empowered to send out pulses to my team, which allows me to create the survey, to choose the questions, to send that out, to see the results, and to take action on that. So it's a tool that I would say is designed for me, not me personally, but as a manager of a smaller group of people within the organization, and I'm not a stakeholder, I'm not a leader. I don't want to look at the entire organization, although that is helpful. I'm that level below where I want to look at it from my team perspective and things that I can do to impact them directly. So that's what Viva Pulse is all about. So I'm going to do a quick demo now and show you Viva Pulse, and you'll kind of see what I mean when I say it's a lightweight tool, and I'll talk about how I've used it. And I'm actually going to use our kind of CPS live one as well, so you can see some of the pulses that we sent out, some of the pulses that you can create, and some of the feedback as well. And obviously not showing you specific feedback, but we'll talk about how it works. So let's dive into a quick demo. So Viva Pulse is available as all the other apps are in Viva, which is through the taskbar in Microsoft Teams. So I've clicked on Viva Pulse here and I can access it. And this is what it looks like. So as a manager, I have the ability to send pulses. Now, if I have a team member, they're maybe not able to send pulses, but they can submit them. So they'll have an app, but all they can do is kind of answer the surveys as they come through. But me as a manager, the first thing I'll look at is some templates from Microsoft. So we've got templates of quick surveys that I might want to ask the team on. And as a manager, someone new, as someone who doesn't work in HR, I found this very helpful because I don't know how to ask a question that isn't going to upset people, or maybe it's too blunt or not using the right language, or it's that type of there are templates that are good questions that you can ask that are kind of already created for you. So it does half the work for me, which I liked as a manager. I didn't want to ask a question saying, how is everyone doing? It wouldn't be as good. So these are the types of templates. I can browse all templates. So I can see there's one for team member success, so the needs of my direct reports. I can check on well-being. I can check on manager focus, hybrid working, how are people doing in the hybrid work, and change management support. So if we're implementing a new tool, or in CPS's case, we actually had a restructure of the team. We had some changes in terms of managers, and some people left and some people joined. And so it's quite a useful one to just make sure that people are happy with the level of change that's happening in the team. So that's from a manager perspective and a leader, department leader perspective. These are the types of things I might want to check on. But there's also project team leads as well, and I'll talk about some of the use cases shortly. But I can ask about a current project that's happening, and I can say, okay, how's the experience with the project? There's a post-project debrief one as well, and you can see it gives you pre-populated questions and an estimated time that it takes to answer. The 3-minute survey is not a 10-minute survey. It's designed to be quick. The one that I liked was the well-being one, which I used a couple of times, just because it's something that I, as a new manager, one of the things that I absolutely want to take on board is making sure that people are not burnt out. I want to make sure people are happy and we're doing a great job and we love delivering these projects to customers. We're not overwhelmed. And it's a win-win because people are happy, they come to work, they're happy, they're delivering projects, they're happy, and everybody wins. So well-being was an important one for me. So let me just show you an example of what that looks like. Oh, wonderful. This didn't happen 2 seconds ago. Let's give that a refresh. Let's go back again. And I have used the well-being one a couple of times. That's the first time that's ever done that. So give me 1 second. Let's try that again. Worst case scenario, I've got a demo environment up as a just in case. All right, let's see if it's going to work with well-being. Okay, there we go. So my well-being one, what you'll see is that it does give you a title. I kept the title in mind, but you could rename it. Check in, how's everyone doing? You can kind of customize that title. What you'll see on the right-hand side are the questions that are kind of in that template. So things like excuse me, I am able to cope effectively with work-related stress. So that's quite nice because I wouldn't have thought to ask that question that way. I would have said, how stressed are you, or is work stressful, instead of kind of wording it as in a way that kind of makes sense. So for me as a manager, yes, I don't have HR who can help me write these questions every 2 minutes. And there's a 1 to 5, strongly disagree, agree, very easy to answer. What I really like about the templates is that it gives your staff members suggestions of things that they could help improve. So if somebody says, yes, strongly agree, I'm absolutely not able to cope with work stress, okay, what would help in that scenario? And it gives you suggestions, because sometimes if you have a little box, a text box, I know that I do it as well with the Glint surveys that come through. If there's a text box that comes through and it says, how can we improve this? I don't answer it because I want to answer a quick survey. I want to give my feedback, but I can't think of a new thing to implement. So I just hit skip. So Personally, I don't do it. And so that's why I like this one, because they can pick what would help. We need more people. We don't have enough people in the team. People are, there's one person doing a million projects and another person doing one project. There's no boundaries. We're working late. We're overworked. There's no flexibility. So it gives them suggestions of things. Okay, what could improve this area? Well, additional team members. And to be honest, as someone who answers surveys, I just in the moment wouldn't have thought of that. Although I know that we need more people, I don't necessarily want to say hire more staff. I can click that and give a suggestion, or I can click other and type in my own answer. So it does allow custom answers as well. Some other questions: I am treated fairly at work, and again, the same sort of format. It gives some suggestions. How could we improve this? And you can choose one. I'm satisfied with my ability to choose where I work. At the moment, you're not able to customize these questions in the template, and I don't think I'm allowed to say if that's coming or not. So we don't know. But at the moment, we've got these templates in place. What I can do is add a question. So if there is something else that I want to check on, I can. So I can ask a open text question or a multiple choice, similar to forms if you've used that before, and I can actually get help with writing questions. So this, for me, love it, because what do I ask? And so it gives you some insight into how to write effective. I don't need to contact HR and imagine if every manager had to ask HR how to write a question in a survey. I actually have what jargon should I use? How are you feeling about the organization, or are you great? Don't do leading questions, which is what I would typically do, is a leading question, not even realize it. So there's some really great kind of help and support for old managers as well as new managers. Everybody, it gives you help with. My manager supports me, and then you could say, yes, no, or whatever it may be. And you can add on other options so people can add their own comments. So I can add questions, and it gives me help when I'm writing questions. So when I'm happy with my survey, and that's kind of the customization level we can do. We can edit the name, you can add your question, and get some help with writing it. I'm just going to hit next, and what I'll need to do now is send this to my individuals, and I can send them to my team. So usually I would type in my team name, my mates, and my staff members, and I would add that. I can send it to a Teams channel if I want to. At the moment, we've set this up, and by default, it's set up so the responses are anonymous. So when I do get my responses in, I'm not able to see who in particular, who's answered a specific question, or what their answer was. Now, the minimum number of people you need to add to the survey is 5. Now, you can change that, but I wouldn't recommend it, because you want to keep the anonymity. That you don't want to pinpoint who's answered what. The idea is that you get an overall view of your team, and you can improve things that will impact everyone. So you need to have at least 5 people in this list to be able to send it. You can add a personal note. So I absolutely did add a personal note to say, hey, everybody, really want to make sure that we get feedback, and we're listening to you, and we want to understand how you're doing, and please fill out this survey. It'll take 2 seconds, but it'll really help me to support you and make your life easier as a person working at CPS. Whatever you want to put in there, but I would highly recommend it. And then you go ahead and you send it. I'm not going to send it because people will actually receive it in CPS and say, Kat, why are you sending me a wellbeing survey? So I won't do that now, but that's how you kind of create the survey. So nice and easy, working from a template. Just some other templates. And so if we just have a quick look at the project team, you'll see some of the questions here. There are quite a lot of questions in this one, but it really, as somebody who works in professional services, we deliver projects to customers. Sometimes I have staff members who, there's maybe projects where we're getting, if we get any bad feedback, or if the team are stressed out about it, or if we're struggling to, or whatever it may be, if there's any challenges with the project, we can send out a quick post to say, what's the feedback from the team delivering the project? And that could be the project managers and our consultants and architects, to make sure that everybody understands what's the problem with it. People don't know what the goal is of the project. They don't have a clear plan. People don't know who is responsible for anything or making decisions. There's no support from leadership. We don't have the resources. So you see what I mean? It can really help you define, maybe if there's something going wrong with a project, what is it and how do you fix it? And so the project one is also one that's quite useful to us, and the nature of the work that we do. All right, so the results then. So what you'll see is pulses sent down at the bottom. You'll see drafts, and you'll see, I think this is one that we've just created, and you'll see feedback that is shared with me, and I'll see pulses that are requested from me. So even though I'm a manager and I send out pulses, I can be asked to answer a pulse as well. And you'll see in here, Christopher Bond, who's our commercial director, sent me a team success pulse that I answered in April. So you can see where you've been asked and where you want to send them as well. So you'll see that some of these have been, some of them were tests, some of them have been answered, 5 out of 5 responded. This one is 4 out of 5 responded. So when I click on this one, I'm not able to see any of the kind of feedback specifically. I've actually only got an 80% response rate. Here's the people that I asked to answer it, but I'm not able to see any of the results because it's not 5. So that's something to bear in mind. Let's go to one of the pulses that we did. So in this one, we've got 100% response rate. I can see who I asked to do the pulse, and I can see the results from the questions as well. And don't worry, I'm not going to show you any comments or anything, and it is all anonymized. But the questions that we asked in well-being is, I'm treated fairly at work, I'm able to cope effectively with stress, and I'm satisfied. I have the flexibility. I can choose where I work. So you'll see I've got overall scores, 4 out of 5. So this is the kind of rating. I can click into one of them and I can get a little bit more information. So I can see the respondents, I can see who responded in a positive way or neutral, no negative in here, which is nice to see. But I can scroll down and I can see not just the kind of, most people said that they kind of strongly agree that they're treated fairly at work, but we have the improvement actions. So in this one, one of the things that we kind of got from team members is that we could provide feedback more frequently. So we use Viva Engage for feedback. So we've started utilizing things like praise and Viva Engage. We don't use the team's praise as much, although we do in between us sometimes if somebody's helped something out. But that started from managers. So we've said, okay, we'll start promoting on Viva Engage where somebody's passed an exam, where they've got good feedback from a customer, where they've helped somebody out. And then what we'll do is we've got a modern workplace team and a chat. We use the praise function to say, oh, thanks, John really helped us out with, John, it's not someone in my team, but they really helped us out with this customer. I really appreciate you jumping on a quick call and doing praise. So we've tried to kind of implement that. And as a new manager, I know now that in my one-to-ones, I want to be providing feedback to my employees. And that is positive feedback as well as how we can improve, and making sure that we're always kind of consistently growing and people can understand exactly how they are working. Some people did say better defined expectations. So that tells me as a manager, I need to make sure that I'm telling people exactly what's expected of them, what their job role is, what they're, if they're delivering a project, here's what we, define as success, and here's what's expected of you. And consistency with how team members are treated is an interesting one. I think there's in our new team, we have some brand new people who have started, and we have some people who've been here for a very long time. And so I can see how there may be different treatment between the two, because you kind of, you really want to support new staff as much as possible, but you don't want to forget that there are staff that's been here for years, but they also do still need support and help and guidance, and they still want to have somebody to talk to and to rely on. So it's helped me as a new manager to really gauge how my team are feeling. I don't know who said what, but I can kind of say, okay, here's the 3 things people do, are saying that we need to have more consistency, we need to have better feedback, and I can do things to improve that. I can take action and say, okay, great, well, we'll implement these feedback loops. I will make sure that in our one-to-ones, I've defined expectations. I'll make sure that I'm consistently, treating team members the same, and I can actually take action and improve myself as a manager. I would not have known that. I don't think I would have got that from my one-to-ones without Viva Pulse. So for me, it's given me that insight. I can look at, I can resend the pulse if I want to. So if I want to ask people again, I can reuse the same one. I can share report as well. So this is quite useful if I wanted to share the pulse results with my team. So I can be as transparent as possible and share it with my team and say, here's the results from the pulse, here's what's come out of it. And I can kind of use that as part of my communication to say, obviously it's not going to tell you who's answered what again, but it's going to give everybody the view of, okay, here's the things that we've seen from your feedback that you've said needs to improve. Here's the things I'm going to say to improve. So I'm going to, for feedback, we're going to do this, for this, we're going to do this, and so on. So I can actually communicate the changes to my team and make sure that people know that we are listening to their feedback. We're not just getting them to answer a bunch of questions and then never doing anything about it. And we can communicate that to them as well in this way. And that's the reason why the kind of share pulse results is designed for you to share that back with your team, which I got from Microsoft actually, because I was saying, who would I share it to? And their guidance was you share it with your team, you share it with them, and you be kind of transparent and tell them how you're going to kind of improve. What I also think is useful is I can share this with my manager, my director, who's the senior leader who gets the Viva Glint type of results. And he will check in and say, how's your team getting on? How are they doing? And I can say, well, here's the recent pulse survey. They're doing really well or they're not. And here's what I'm going to do to improve it. So it has two uses, that share button. In terms of the results, we could go through each question. So again, you get overall results. We got more neutral in this one. Here's some other options. A lot of people said to, explore additional options when it comes to flexibility. And you get, that's the kind of as deep as you can go with the results. But for what it is, it's enough for what I would need as a manager. I don't need to go into the nitty gritty. I don't need the level of insights that Viva Insights would bring. I don't need that because if you've got Viva Insights, you don't need another tool that does the same thing. But I need to have that, get an insight into the feedback from my team. And there's a couple of other kind of pieces in here. So again, we've got share results. We can resend pulses to get a trend view on what's changed over time. And I can kind of create a chat and discuss that with my team as well. So just going back then, that's the type of feedback that you can get. There's a few bits that you can customize with it. Now, I as a manager wouldn't go in and customize the stuff, but I do also work in the Modern Workplace team, and I am a Viva Explorer and an MVP. So I like to look in the back and see what's going on. So from a CPS perspective, that's how I used Viva Pulse. But in terms of the admin center, which I haven't looked at in CPS, but here's what we could customize. So we can change the respondents. So if you want less or more, the 5 is, I believe, the recommended and the minimum. But if you said you had a very large department, you could say, okay, I want a minimum of 10 people to be able to answer it. You can add your privacy policy. You can customize some of the notifications, and if you can allow employees to edit some of the example questions in there, which we at CPS have turned off. You can allow people to add questions or not. So if you said, okay, we just want to use the templates, that's absolutely fine. Now, the notifications, so in terms of where the notifications come from, so one is through the activity feed. You'll get notifications if you receive a pulse. And if someone has answered the pulse, you as a manager will receive notifications, and you'll get a notification to say that everybody's answered it. It will send regular kind of notifications, and it's mainly done through Teams. You can configure email notifications as well, but it's not on by default. There's a little bit of Funky PowerShell you can do to actually enable it to send emails. And I'm happy to share the link in the chat, but it's just Microsoft Docs, search for Viva Pulse, and you'll see how to turn on the email notifications there. And the only reason I say email notifications is we don't need it at CPS, but if customers were going to look at Viva Pulse and they still use email as a communication tool, then yes, email notifications will be useful as well as Teams. And you can customize the support page so you can link to your own stuff when it comes to if there's any kind of privacy stuff or well-being or use rights, whatever you want to put in there, you absolutely can. So just conscious of time, there's a couple of things I want to cover. So as someone, and so there's 3 kind of use cases for Viva Pulse. I've talked a little bit about my experience as a manager of a small team and what it kind of allows me to do. So as someone who manages a team that remotes works remotely as a modern workplace leader. I want to understand how my team is doing as situations are coming up. So as we're doing projects, as we're busy and it's hectic, and we're all working so hard on all of these different things, I just want a quick check, and I don't want to have to put in an hour meeting. I don't want to have to put in, earlier we're talking about focus time and being productive. An hour meeting for me to kind of drag out some of these check-ins isn't productive. We have one-to-ones for that. We have dedicated time for that support for my employees and for them to give me feedback. But if I want a quick insight on what's going on, which I'll probably get quicker and more truthfully, then I can use Viva Pulse for that, and I can make informed decisions based on that feedback. And I can do that ad hoc, and that idea of allowing people to understand that, yes, I'm checking in because I care, and here's the results, and here's what I'm going to do to fix it. So employees feel listened to, they feel engaged, and they're more likely to answer more pulses in the future because they know that I'm listening and I am going to take action on what they're doing. So it's just, yeah, absolutely so invaluable. And yes, I know it's successful because we're improving. The team are leaving more feedback. They're engaged and they're happier. So it kind of fits in line with that Viva stuff. But from an actual manager perspective, it's been so helpful. But the other use case for that is project leads. So as someone who is working as a project lead, so we have project managers, we call them engagement leads. So this would be appropriate for them as well in terms of leading a project across multiple business stakeholders. There's a very large project we're working on at the moment where we have lots of different types of consultants. We're working across different departments. Sales are involved, our team are involved, and it's very big. And I guess there's one-to-ones with that project, but for the project manager engagement lead to just be able to find out how the project's going as it's happening instead of waiting till it's finished and say, oh, well, there was a problem because of this. We could have fixed it during the project if we had something like Viva Pulse as a quick way to get feedback. And they can then raise that as a risk, or they can start to kind of put in things to make sure it's changed. So they need more regular engagement with the engagement lead. The consultants feel like they don't have those one-to-ones. We can put those in, and so on. So projects is a great example as well. But I didn't talk about department leaders. So department leaders, absolutely. Again, for some of the department leaders at our organization, they will get some of the Glint results back. But only when there's enough results to split out the teams, where sometimes there's not. So not enough people have answered, and so it kind of aggregates professional services all together, where naturally we've got a BizApps professional services, modern workplace, we've got project, we've got business consulting. We've actually got 4 different practices within professional services. And so when those department leaders don't have the kind of results from Glint to see how their department's doing, they can use something like Viva Pulse as well. So it's not just for managers within teams, it could be for those department leaders as well. Whereas Glint, that's kind of the professional services director, CEO, they're looking at kind of the whole department or the whole organization. So again, useful for department leaders as well. So just before we finish then, there's a couple of, just in terms of how this Viva Pulse works with the other Viva tools. So it complements and works very well with Viva Insights and Viva Glint. So it fits in the middle, and hopefully by now you've kind of seen how it does. But Viva Insights we can use as a manager or a department leader or a stakeholder to get your data-driven insights. So to find out the challenges or the opportunities, to think about it more positively, on how we can improve things. Are staff members burnt out? Are they working late? And that's something you can see from Viva Insights. Are they getting enough one-to-one time with their managers? How are our new employees working in the team? Do new employees have a good network? Are they working late? Are they stressed? Do they have enough support from their managers? Do I need to implement something that will impact my team? So Viva Insights is something we can use to understand those situations or challenges or opportunities. And then Viva Pulse is for me to do that outreach to say, okay, Viva Insights is telling me that my team are working late most of the time. So what I can do is I can do a well-being pulse to find out what the feedback from the team actually is, if they are working late, if they're stressed, and what they think we could do to improve. It's also showing that, I'm listening and I'm paying attention, but I wouldn't maybe necessarily know to send that well-being survey if it wasn't for Viva Insights telling me that there's something going on. And I can get that feedback, and then Glint can look at that. Excuse me, I need my coffee today. From an organizational perspective, is this org wide? Is this a situation that's not just with my modern workplace team who are overworked? Actually, is this something that's impacting the entire organization? Again, you can see that from Viva Insights, and you can use Glint to kind of ask people in those surveys. And Glint's that kind of larger 10, 20 questions on a bi-weekly or monthly basis. It's a kind of a more heavy-duty survey, whereas Pulse is that kind of smaller one. So it works it complements the two technologies quite nicely in terms of how do you know there's a problem? Find out from your team, is this an org-wide situation? You've got all the tools to support you to do that. You can also use Viva Goals to track your success with Viva Pulse. It all comes together. It's all one big loop, see? And so what you can do is if you're looking to use Viva Pulse, it can help with some of your objectives and some of your key results. So your objectives could be something like, I want to improve manager effectiveness, and leadership skills, or that could maybe go down to HR to say, we're trying to improve employee retention. Key results could be your 20% increase in positive feedback. It could be an initiative or activity, implement Viva Pulse to help us make sure that our managers have effective leadership skills, because it will help them to communicate and get feedback and so on. So you can kind of integrate it with Viva Goals in terms of tracking success. You can't, at the moment, there's no full integration for key results, so you can't kind of pick Viva Pulse to integrate the results in. But you can use it as we're going to implement Viva Pulse because it's going to help us do these 3 things as our objectives. And you can look at, an increase trend over time as well to see if that's improved your team. You can use Viva Glint for that as well, I guess, to see if things are going up or down. But that's it. That's everything from me. I did want to just, talk about, I guess, more a personal experience of using the tool and how it's helped me. Not thinking at it from a customer perspective, more as a selfish, which I don't usually do, but more of a selfish. This is a tool that's helped me personally. And yeah, I highly recommend it to any manager, new or not. It's definitely one that I found value from. But hopefully that's shown you Viva Pulse, shown you what it's all about, and you've got a little story from it as well. But thank you very much for listening. I'll pause now. If there are any questions, feel free to use the chat or unmute. That's not a problem at all. But thank you very much. Oh, and thank you to our sponsors. Sorry. Thank you very much to the sponsors. And the next session is Chirag talking about designing and implementing Microsoft Viva services. So make sure you